I'm James of Pistils and Pollen, and I'm here with Maru of Monarch Beauty Farm. Now, Maru, you have been growing bulbs in containers, flowers and vegetables in containers for quite some time. Is that correct?
It is correct on the flowers. I just tried tomatoes for the first time this year in raised beds.
Awesome. Well, so then you know flowers, you know bulbs, and today we're putting together a little tutorial for you on how to grow bulbs in containers using a lasagna method. Because if you want to see bulbs blooming in the spring, you have to plant them in the fall. Is that right?
That is correct. And I think the lasagna method is great for us living in the city who want to maximize the space that we have, especially in containers, and then just put as many bulbs as we can in one.
Load it up. That way we have as many flowers as possible and coming in succession, right?
Exactly. There are some that will bloom earlier and some later, so you have blooms, for a long period of time.
That's right. So let's get started. So we're gonna start with the pot. Let's start there, right? Because we've got right here a 12-inch by 12-inch terracotta pot. I like terracotta because it's a natural material. It's also a little bit heavy, and I garden in my containers on my roof deck and my balcony, which is 4.5 stories up. So wind is always an issue, and I love terracotta outside because it is a little heavier and it's not going to blow away in a windstorm, which we get here in Chicago.
That is so true.
So this one is a nice depth for I think what we're doing, because we want to make sure that we get our bulbs deep enough and that they're protected by the soil, which we have right here. And I love this soil in part because it is a very rich organic sort of compost.
Yeah, it looks also that it will have a lot of drainage. It doesn't compact when you squeeze it, so it's perfect.
Yes, it's going to be rich and nutritive for the bulbs, but not going to rot them out, right? And then we have right here, we're both organic gardeners, right? So we've got a nice organic bulb tone, which my dog actually goes wild when I put this in containers.
The smellier, the better.
Yeah, it's like dried, blood meal and
Delicious.
feathers and bones, all the things that apparently dogs like. It's also why I don't use this in my houseplants inside,
Yes.
just because the smell can be a little off-putting for a few days while it's settling in. So outside it doesn't bother me. It's also a little dusty to work with, as you can see. And then we've got a top dressing.
I love that.
Yes, I love working with pine fines. I use these in my containers inside my house sometimes just to cover over the top of the soil. So it has
nice
that,
color.
yeah, nice, rich, organic look. And this is a little wet, so it'll dry up and be more of a brown, sort of earthy mulch color after it dries.
Fantastic. And what bulbs did you bring for today?
So I'm so excited about these giant globe alliums. I grow these in my parkway.
Wow.
And you can see they're huge, they're massive, right? And I don't know why, but these alliums tend to grow, in my experience, super well in Chicago gardens. Is that?
They do really well. I also have a couple of varieties on my parkway, and I have to say that at the beginning I was very confused on which side I should plant them. And I think what I learned is that when you see the little rootlets, that is the area that will go down, and the stem will come from the other side.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to see on this one,
Yes.
isn't it? Where you've got those little rootlets coming. It's a little harder to tell because that one's lost its point.
It's like a donut.
Yeah, that one be a little more tricky. Another question I think a lot of folks have about planting bulbs is, how do you know how deep to plant them, right?
Yeah, so the rule of thumb, at least for flower farmers or gardeners, we basically have to choose a depth that is 3 times the size of the bulb. So I think you have a pretty good method to show that. So on the alliums, these giant alliums, you'll probably be at least 8 inches
Yeah, so
deep.
that's like this deep.
Exactly. And that's why the lasagna method works so well, because when you choose a bulb that is smaller, then you have the opportunity to use different layers of your container.
Well, then let's go ahead and get started with that,
Absolutely.
right?
Very good. So we'll start putting a couple of inches of the potting soil.
And we're not gonna
First.
layer gravel or anything at the bottom of the pot. We don't need to do that because we've got this really well-draining soil mix, right?
Exactly.
Water's just gonna go right out the bottom without any problem.
Yes, all we want is a couple of inches so that when those roots start growing for our deeper bulb, which will be the allium, so those roots have some space to grow before they reach the bottom of the pot. So right now we have a couple of inches down.
All right. So we'll just layer these. We could put them pretty close together, right?
They can actually be touching. And so once again, we just look for that section with the rootlets.
Let's see how many we can get in there. Can we get all, we have 6? Yeah.
All right, let's try.
Maybe 5?
2 more. I think 3 more.
3 more?
Yeah.
All right, we can get them all.
Of course.
But that one will go right in the middle, right?
Perfect, yeah.
Boom, just like that.
I love that.
Beautiful.
Fit.
Here, we'll,
Do we have
we'll pick it up so we can show you. They're holding in there pretty well.
They are touching,
Yes.
so that is important. So
Okay.
now James, we forgot the fertilizer.
Well, yeah, we could just layer a little bit in, or we can do it on the top and then it'll wash itself down.
Perfect,
How about
yeah,
how about we do that?
That's a good idea. Is that how you normally do it?
Well, I'll normally do it a little bit. Actually, when I'm fertilizing my house plants at home, I'll mix the fertilizer in with the soil ahead of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in this case, when I plant bulbs, because they're kind of dormant right now and they're going to slowly come to life, I think it's okay if we put it along the top, and then as we water it, it'll slowly release its nutrients into the pot. So I think either way works, though.
Yeah, either way. My method is a little bit different.
Okay.
But you know,
how would you do it? You do a little now?
For you. Yeah, normally I add a little bit of fertilizer.
You just sprinkle some on top?
No, actually, with the soil that we put first, and then I put the bulbs in. But if you have tried this method, let's try your method.
All right, we'll try it this way. So we've covered those with a few more inches of soil, right?
Yes, and so now is our time to put some of these, or you want to put that?
Well, let's put these in,
okay.
and we'll save that. So this we're gonna put these in just as closely as we can, right?
Yes, they can also be just like eggs in a carton. That's basically what we think
Here,
works.
I got some for you.
Perfect, thank you.
I'm sleeping on the job here. My job's to help you.
Well, you can put some also, like we were doing. That was a good idea.
Goes faster with the team, right?
Oh yeah, always. And one thing that people probably doesn't know is that you can plant bulbs in containers all the way until the end of November or sometimes early December, just because our winters have been so mild.
Yeah.
Climate change.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, here we are in fall and I need to roll up my sleeves. So here, let's just show everyone how beautiful that, oh no, I'm ruining it. How beautiful that looked before I ruined it. Okay.
But you can really cram a lot of bulbs
we could
in
probably,
just a little space, and we still have space for another maybe 5 to 8 bulbs in here.
Yeah, I would say 10 for sure. We could do that.
Amazing.
Now these only need to be about 3 to 4 inches deep. That's why we're planting them above the bigger bulbs, which need to be more like 8 inches deep, correct?
Yes. And what I love about it is that presumably this smaller bulb will be also shorter, and then when the alliums come, they will be really tall. So you'll have that foliage maybe after the first one bloom, you know, just providing a little bit of a
and this galanthus it'll come up much earlier than the alliums from my experience. In my parkway garden, the alliums typically come up in May. They start coming up in April actually, but the globes tend to come up and really do their job in May. These galanthus, however, they come up as early as February. So it is nice. We could even add in a layer of daffodils or tulips in here and get a third layer that's gonna span that gap in between. But because the container is a little bit smaller, I think we'll just go with 2, and we'll save another container to maybe put some different varieties of maybe tulips or daffodils.
But that is a good point. So if you have one variety that is blooming in March, then you have the daffodils blooming late March, then tulips April, and then you wait for your alliums in May. So you have literally like 4 months,
of blooms.
Of blooms. That's
and
beautiful.
It's great for those early pollinators too, right? Are pollinators out and around that time?
The alliums definitely are bee magnets. I think May is when I start seeing the bees.
Yeah.
Earlier than that, I think they're still sleeping.
Okay. Well, we just put a little bit of organic fertilizer on the top there, and we don't really need much because this is a new batch of soil and it's very rich already. It's compost basically. So, and then
and the bulbs also come already with the energy they need to bloom. So we don't really need a lot of fertilizer.
Those alliums have a lot, a lot of energy. Yeah, and actually I love to use this method especially for tulips, because tulips, at least in our climate, don't seem to come back very well year after year, it seems.
Yes,
like
tulips.
alliums do. They come back very well every year, don't they?
So perennial bulbs are alliums and daffodils. You can definitely rely on those every year. There are a few varieties of tulips that are perennial that I've seen coming back, but it's better to plant them year after year. And as a matter of fact, I will have a collection for sale in the fall.
Awesome.
For what I will be growing indoors in the winter time.
Folks can go to your website to
Yes, so that will
out.
be released sometime in November.
Awesome.
But yeah, so this is a beautiful pot. All you have to do then is water fully right before the winter time so that those roots start growing all winter long. And by the time spring comes around, this will defrost, right? Because at some point in the winter, this will be a frozen pot. But those roots that start developing after you water, they will stay in place, and then they will thaw, and then let the plants grow.
Yeah, and if you do have an outdoor protected area, all the better. An outdoor unheated garage, a garden shed, something that gives it just a little protection, that's great. It'll probably be fine on your deck, as you said, but if you've got a little protection.
I would prefer the protection so that we can avoid those swings in temperature. So I particularly have saved my containers in my garage.
Yeah, I like to store a lot of my containers there too.
Yeah.
Well, and then maybe we just check on it once over the winter because it'll probably be okay with the moisture that we give it now.
That is so true. So essentially, if you see cracking on your soil, it's time to add more water. So usually around January, early February, I will be watering again and make sure that those bulbs are, in a moist environment.
And this mulch helps with that too.
Yes.
Keeps it in there.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, James.
I'm
This was
excited
super
about
fun.
this. Yeah, we'll do some more.
Thank you.